Hey guys, LC Holt here, and this is my update for the first week of July. This year's just flying by. Sitting over here to my right, Rebecca Ivy.
Hello.
Zach Myers is in Arizona.
How's it going?
And Ryan Rainick is the land of bright light and neon.
It sucks.
And today what we're going to do is we're going to talk about one of the more famous or infamous haunted house stories in America. We're going to be talking about the Amityville Haunting. And, in order really to talk about that, I have to explain to you some backstory about the residence itself. Probably the best place to start with this story is on Wednesday, November 13th, 1974. About 6:30 p.m., a local resident named Ronald DeFeo Jr., otherwise known as Butch, came rushing into the local bar called Henry's Bar there in Amityville, Long Island. And he said, "I need help. Somebody, I think my mother and father have been shot." So they called the police, and he got together a little posse of his local friends, and they went over to 112 Ocean Avenue, which was walking distance from Henry's Bar. This was the address where Ronald lived with his father, who was Ronald DeFeo Sr., mother Louise, and his 4 siblings. They went into this house, and what they found was every member of the family shot dead in their beds, face down on the pillow. The entire family, with the exception of Ronald DeFeo Jr., had been murdered the previous night. Now, like I said, you had Ronald DeFeo Sr., the father, who was 44. You had Louise, who was 42. Beyond that, you had Butch, who was the oldest child. He was 23. And you had Dawn, who was 18. You had Allison, who was 13. You had Mark, who was 12. And then John Matthew, who was 9. The family had lived at 112 Ocean Avenue since 1965. They moved from Brooklyn. And Ronald DeFeo Sr. worked as a sales manager at a car lot that was owned by members of his wife's family. Some interesting stuff about Ronald DeFeo Sr., which might come in handy when we go further into this story, is that his uncle, Pete DeFeo, was actually a capo for the Genovese crime family in New York. And it was said that Ronald DeFeo Sr., the father, was in with the mob and was even using the car lot in Brooklyn, where he still worked, to dispose of evidence for the mob and also perhaps even bodies for the mob. Because Amityville, Long Island is a very well-respected and somewhat posh community. So one of the questions that has arisen is, how did Ronald DeFeo Sr., without changing jobs, how was he suddenly able to afford such a nice house in such a ritzy part of Long Island? It's not the wealthiest part of Long Island, but it's pretty damn good, especially for a service manager at a car lot. So perhaps his connection to the mob through his uncle assisted in that. Now back to Ronald Jr. and the events of November 13th, 1974. Ronald was taken in by the police, and he leaned back on this mob story. He said that a guy named Louis Fellini was responsible for the murders, and this Louis guy was a mob hitman.
Sold you out, Louis.
The problem, but here's the thing with Louis, he didn't have to worry about it because he was out of the state at the time. And what happened is these cops, they're talking to Butch DeFeo, and they realize, there are a lot of inconsistencies in this story. That's something Butch DeFeo basically made an art form, was inconsistencies. And you'll find out more of what I'm talking about here in a moment. Because as they started pointing out these holes in the story, the cops finally managed over the course of like a one-night interrogation to get Ronald DeFeo Jr. to crack and admit that he himself murdered his entire family. One key piece of evidence was when they searched the house in Ronald's upstairs attic bedroom, they found a box for the exact kind of rifle, a 35 caliber Marlin rifle that was used in the murders, but they couldn't find the rifle. And so DeFeo basically said, I killed my parents because I overheard them plotting to kill me. So I had to take them out first. And then I just decided, what the hell, I'll just take out my siblings too. He went on trial for this. They tried to say he was insane. Because the thing about Ronald DeFeo Jr., Butch, is he had a long history of drug abuse. He was really into LSD and heroin. And he was kind of a problem child. Like everybody that remembers Ronald DeFeo Jr. Says that he was kind of a bully and that he was really kind of a tough guy, not unlike his father was. So him and his father clashed a lot, getting into fist fights and stuff that were witnessed by neighbors. And so there was an obvious friction there between the two, between the father and the eldest son. The cops eventually determined that his motive was most likely his parents' insurance policy, because he needed money to get these fixes, and he wanted to get that father out of the way. As I said, there was a trial. They tried to prove him insane. That didn't work out. And then on November 21st, 1975, they found him guilty on 6 counts of second-degree murder and sentenced him to 6 concurrent life sentences with possibility for parole after 25 years. Now, there are some strange things about this case that people have pointed out over the years. All of the DeFeo family members were shot in their beds, lying face down on the pillow and on the mattress. So no one, and also the neighbors never heard gunshots. They only heard the dog barking, Shaggy, the dog. And so what basically happened was people started to wonder, how did he kill everybody while they were all still asleep? They thought maybe he had used a sedative, but the autopsy findings didn't find any sedatives in their system. So the question was, how did he go room to room? Because these people the 2 boys were in one room together, but everyone else was in a separate room. So how did he move from room to room, shooting his family members and killing them without anyone in the next room waking up to the sounds of shots and trying to get up? Because it seemed to appear as if everyone was killed in their sleep. So that was an odd discrepancy that the police could never quite figure out. Ronald DeFeo Jr. did not help with this situation, because over the years, through the 80s, the 90s, and the 2000s, he has come out and given all kinds of different stories. In 1986, he said that his oldest sister, Dawn, killed their father because he was abusive to her. And then the distraught mother killed the siblings. And then there was a fight that broke out between the mom and Dawn, and then she killed Dawn killed the mother, and then Ronald killed Dawn, and it was like, so he's coming up with a whole different scenario. Then there was another time in the 90s where again he blamed Dawn, but this time he said Dawn was with a secret male assailant who escaped the house before he could get a good look at her face, and that this and that then Dawn killed all the siblings and the parents, and that he accidentally killed Dawn when he was struggling to get the rifle away from her. And then he gave a third story. He said that he committed the murders with Dawn, but there were 2 other mysterious friends who, though he gave the names, never seemed to have existed. And that they killed the parents because that they were trying to plot and kill both Dawn and, are you following this? This is that Ronald's stories go all over the place. But anyway, what I'm trying to tell you is he gave 3 fucking different stories for how these parents and these children got killed. And in all of the stories, he's the hero who's saving them either from the mother or from Dawn or from mysterious friends or masked assailants who he never saw, who they could never prove existed. He also said that a woman had conspired with him who he was married to, even though he wasn't married to anybody at the time. He married her later in prison, but he said he was married to her then. So long story short, Ronald DeFeo is fucking crazy. And he is pretty much paranoid, and he comes up with these delusional stories, and he's very unreliable. I should say that even though in several of these stories he said that he fought with his sister over the gun after she murdered the family on her own, there was no sign of struggle. There was no evidence of a fight on Dawn. There was no bruises. It appeared she was just shot while she was sleeping. So I think the idea of Dawn having something to do with this is a little bit of a stretch, maybe a part of Ronald's imagination. But I think, Zach, you have some more information about what happened at 112 Ocean Avenue after the DeFeo's murder and after Ronald got his crazy ass sent to prison. What you got for us, man?
Well, in December 1975, a couple named George and Kathy Lutz just got married. They're newlyweds, but they each had their own house. But they wanted to start fresh. Kathleen was she had 3 kids from a previous marriage, and so they just wanted to start fresh. And they bought the house. You know, it was the deal of a lifetime. You know, $80,000 for this 5-bedroom house. It had a pool, a boathouse, 3 floors, including the basement. It was just remarkable. It was a really, really amazing house. And then there's a red flag that goes up about it when a house is that huge, that nice, you know, for that price, just doesn't add up. But their kids the oldest was Daniel. He was 9 years old. Then there was Christopher, who was 7. And then Melissa, who they called Missy, was 5. And all 3 of these kids, again, were from a previous marriage. So George was their stepfather. And they had a dog, a Labrador named Harry.
Harry and the Lutzes. Now, they are very famous because they are where this whole story of a haunting comes from. There were many, many claims that the Lutzes made, things that happened supposedly upon entering the house where the DeFeo murders had occurred. Say what, Zach? What would be one of the claims?
Well, one of them was George would wake up around 3:15 every morning and would check on the boathouse. Later, he would learn that was the estimated time of the death of the DeFeo murders, was 3:15 a.m.
Uh-huh. All right, so he would wake up. If you've seen the movie with James Brolin, he wakes up to the sound of gunshots. It's like, what the hell is that? Must be the DeFeo family getting murdered. So, I mean, yeah. The thing about, well, I will go into some more of these claims, but one of the things about these claims just in general is that there's no real way to tell unless you were in the house. But, I mean, you know, I'm willing to accept that he maybe had some insomnia or something like that.
Well, I have a lot of paranormal stuff happening around that time. You know, I can't actually say it's that precise at 3:15, but I know that 3 o'clock is a very odd time. I've heard for different paranormal activity and stuff like that, if you believe in that.
Yes.
Eminem does.
What'd you say, Ryan? Say that again.
Eminem does. He made a whole song about it. And it ends with like him saying evil right and shit. I don't know what to do with my hands. But yeah, that happened.
There was also the story of George Lutz hearing marching band tuning up in the living room in the middle of the night. And he would like go in there and there's nothing.
No marching band in the living room.
No marching band in the living room.
No marching band.
No marching band.
Curiously, a marching band had been murdered in the house.
Maybe someone was listening to Sgt. Pepper's.
That's right. Ronald DeFeo's favorite album was Sgt. Pepper's. Say that again, Zach.
Someone else was taking LSD.
Yeah, I think George might have been dropping a few things. Well, that's it. So marching band music was downstairs. So he woke up and he went downstairs and there was no more.
They were tuning up.
Oh, yeah, right. So because it was
Yeah,
pre-performance.
it was pre-performance. You know, that's why I think.
Right. Where was the? I would love to know the location of the high school. Was it just the high school marching band, or what?
I don't know. I still think it was Sergeant Pepper's tuning up at the beginning of their album.
Right. Okay. Well, that's interesting. While you have those incidents, another thing that happened.
You guys are giving me bad marching band flashbacks. Because I had one of those once. I was at the Columbine school. Like it was like not too long after that happened, and then, like I didn't even plan on being there. I was with this girl, and she like stopped. I'm like, "Wait, this is Columbine?" She's like, "Yeah," and I'm like, "Okay," because I had zero plan on being here like ever in life. But I'm like, so I'm there, and I started to take pictures, and it was straight out of a horror movie. The entire band like shifted as one, stopped playing, and just looked directly at me, and I'm like, "So no pictures or pictures?" I'm gonna go over like away from where you guys are.
Wow, that's like The Faculty. You ever seen that movie?
I really wish I could have filmed that moment in life because it was like non-rehearsed, just straight out of like the best horror movie ever. Like
what were you doing at Columbine?
I can't even remember why we had to be there. Like her uncle like let us have this place for the weekend. Like I remember that part. Like because she stayed in like Fort Collins, which I believe is like I'm trying to like remember like the geography of Colorado because this is like way over a decade ago. But I remember for whatever reason, like I just found myself like on Columbine's like campus, like when I didn't plan on it at all. And then that moment happened, and I was like, yeah, that's probably the greatest thing I've ever filmed.
Wow, that's interesting. Well, we'll jump back to the DeFeo thing, but that was, Columbine. That could be an interesting show in and of itself. But
what a sad story.
It is a very sad story, particularly
learn how to fight. God damn pussies.
Especially for people of our age, who was about that age when that happened. But anyway, back to the subject at hand. Ronald DeFeo, I was thinking about the other one. George Lutz claimed that he saw a picture of Ronald DeFeo once he became aware of these murders and said, wow, that guy looks a lot like me. And, he had a beard and he had long hair. But in the 70s, most cool guys had beards and long hair. So I don't really understand that one. He also started to drink at a bar called the Witch's Brew, which he says Ronald DeFeo Jr. once used to frequent. Now, the problem is there's no fucking bar called the Witch's Brew in Amityville, Long Island. There is Henry's Bar, which I mentioned earlier, which is a walking distance down the road. Now, for the book, I'm willing to give this. For the book, certain names were changed to protect the innocent, so they say. Maybe they changed the name of the bar. I don't know why you would change the actual name to a fictitious name when you're keeping the same address in the same town, but I'm willing to almost say maybe Jay Anson, when he wrote the book, The Amityville Horror, decided to call Henry's Bar the Witch's Brew. Okay, I'll give you that. But anyway, what else we got?
Well, the Lutz's 5-year-old daughter, Missy, developed an imaginary friend named Jody, a demonic pig-like creature with glowing red eyes. Now, I can't see why any little girl would want to hang out with that, but I mean, I guess I don't judge.
Well, I mean, some of those fucking Disney movies are as horrible as
Peppa Pig.
Well, I mean, the Disney things are weird because a lot of those early Disney movies are really twisted. Like Dumbo is depressing as fuck. Bambi is traumatizing. So maybe she saw a Disney movie and she was like, I want a demonic pig because he reminds me of Dumbo getting dragged away from his mother or whatever the fuck it was. It's like... Maybe
she read Charlotte's Web.
Right, because this was at a time...
Back, Disney movies are like when you learn like bad things can happen to you.
Yeah, I mean, Disney was not... Yeah, maybe I watched the wrong ones, but I just remember it being strange. But now, go ahead.
They're all like that.
Now, one of the things about the pig thing, though, is, I don't know, the flying demonic pig. That sounds like the works of a not so great horror writer. I mean, we'll go into Jody a little bit more because there were several things that happened.
Yeah, one of them was Missy had said that Jody had just jumped out and Kathy was closing a window, and as she was looking out the window, the eyes were staring back at her through the window, which was captured delightfully in the Margot Kidder film.
Yeah. Yes.
How old was the guy who wrote The Wishmaster that Zach was watching the other day? Because that could have been involved.
The Wishmaster?
Yeah. Because there was a whole bunch of crap going on, so it could have been that guy.
Well, I don't know about The Wishmaster, but I know that Jay Anson is the guy that wrote the Amityville Horror book. You mentioned the movie, the original movie with James Brolin and Margot Kidder. They played George and Kathy Lutz.
How many Amityville horrors have there been now?
Jesus Christ, how many Amityville horrors? There's the first one. Then there is the sequel, which is called The Possession, which is a prequel, actually.
Mm-hmm.
Then there is the 3D one that had Meg Ryan in it.
Meg Ryan one? I don't remember that at all.
Do what?
I don't even remember the one Meg Ryan was in.
Yeah. That was the mid '80s one where everybody was doing 3D. Like Friday the 13th was in 3D. Amityville was in
during her soap opera days.
Yeah, this was long before like Meg Ryan was Meg Ryan. And then after that, it's sort of like the Hellraiser movies for me. They just all kind of blend together. It's like Amityville Time's Up, Amityville the Killer Down the Street, Amityville The Next Generation.
That's my time in life, the pre-Meg Ryan blow up.
Say what?
That's my timeline for everything before Meg Ryan blew up.
Yeah, there you go.
Mm-hmm.
Unfortunately, she didn't. Well, her lips blew up later, but no. Okay. Go ahead. What were you saying?
Oh, me? I
No.
was just making a really, really bad joke. I was just gonna say Amityville, the real estate horrors or something.
Yeah, Amityville, the roof needs reshingling, but there's all kinds of Amityville movies, and like I say, they're not numbered. They're sort of like the modern Transformers phase. They didn't throw numbers behind them. They just threw like a colon and a subtitle. So yeah, there was that one So Zach, do you have any more of these fanciful claims?
Yes. The house was plagued by swarms of flies despite the winter weather.
Well, that's it, honey. The case cracker.
Right there.
Yeah. Well, there were flies in the house.
Flies in your house is most likely haunted.
It's probably that pig shit. Why you got a pig in the first place?
It's the demonic pig shit. It's causing the demonic fly infestation.
It causes it in Indiana.
Oh, yeah, that's right. I forgot you're from Indiana, the home of demonic pigs.
There's a lot of demonic fucking pig flies there.
What do you think about the fly thing, Rebecca? Buy a can of Raid or what?
Buy a can of Raid, yes. Get
Yeah.
the exterminator.
Right.
See why there's a fly issue.
Mm.
Yes.
Yeah. What else we got?
George said that the locks on the doors and windows were damaged by unseen forces.
Oh, I got you. I can rebuff that. The people after that lived in the house after the Lutzes moved out, they actually did check that, and they were on record as saying that all the fixtures, all the locks and the doors and the windows were original, and that they did not appear to have been altered, nor were they damaged. So in other words, not replaced.
Maybe he just didn't know how to use them.
Well, if he's on LSD and he's with the fucking marching band downstairs,
led by a demonic pig.
Yeah, and a horde of flies, I don't know. Okay. So, and I'm assuming that he meant from the inside.
Yeah, that's what. Yeah.
Yeah, because obviously, if someone's trying to break into the house, and it would be. But yeah, okay. So we got that. Let's see what else we got. Oh, he said, "Ow!" Christopher Walken came out. Wow. Okay. Wow. He said that red welts appeared on Kathy's chest at night, and there weren't her nipples. And at one time, She levitated 2 feet into the air above the bed.
So did Dana.
Oh, Ghostbusters reference. Love it.
Sorry.
So she levitated. God, I just thought of something horrible on that. Say again, Zach. I was talking over you.
Oh, big deal. I do that all the time.
You levitate. You are a magician. You probably levitated 5 people today already. Was Kathy Lutz one of them?
No, it wasn't. So I'm gonna call bullshit.
All right, so we got some interesting stuff. What else you got, Zach? You got some more of these claims? I'm loving to hear this. This is fascinating.
Talking about Kathy, she had vivid nightmares about the murders and discovered the odor in which it occurred in each room and everything else. Like she started finding all this weird stuff about the house, and then all the children in the house began sleeping on their stomachs the same way that the children were murdered.
Mm-hmm.
And Kathy would feel a sensation of being embraced in a loving manner by an unseen force.
Oh, did George know about this?
I don't think so.
Kathy, you trollop, you. Getting up with all the demons and shit, flying pigs and her having kids together. All right, well, so let's take that
Hollywood,
claim.
his career would be over. That ghost is fucked.
Let's take up a couple of claims here. Let's go through those one by one. Because what was the first one, Zach? What was it? There was like 3 there.
Yeah, the first one, she was having vivid nightmares about the murders and discovered the order in which they occurred in each room that took place.
Okay. So
she kind of like was getting premonitions about like what happened of the murders, basically.
Couldn't she have read that in the paper?
And that's worth noting because they did know about the murders when they moved in. There have been some sources that said they didn't, but all like the real estate company told them what happened, and that was why they got a 3-story house on the canal for such a low price. So yes, they did know about this. So claims that they didn't, you would have to say like 10 people were lying.
I mean, it wasn't like this happened 100 years before and they bought this house. I mean, it was.
Yeah, I mean, it was a few years before.
Pretty.
Yeah, I mean, and so they didn't know. Say what?
Pre-internet.
It was pre-internet, but it wasn't. It wasn't pre-microfiche. Yes. Microfiche. Every movie in that era you had to go to the library and go through the microfiche and look. The DeFeo family was murdered in our houses.
And I'm also sure that if they had just moved it, I'm sure everyone was still probably talking about it. Like, oh, you know what house you just moved into?
Yeah. Hey, Kathy, you seen any ghosts? You heard any marching bands lately? What was the second one, Zach? So she had vivid nightmares.
And then the Lutz children began sleeping on their stomachs in this that the dead bodies of were found of the DeFeo family.
Yeah. Do you sleep on your stomach, Beck?
I prefer to, but I can't because it's bad for you.
Is it bad for you? Why is that?
Your neck.
Is it?
Yeah, that's what I was always told. You're like this.
Oh.
It's not good for your neck.
Zach, do you sleep on your stomach?
No, I sleep upside down.
You sleep like Michael Keaton and Batman from a bar in the ceiling.
Back to the Future 2.
Well, Ryan, I was about to ask you, do you sleep on your stomach or do you sleep at all?
No, I on the stomach every time. Even I can't sleep on anything but my stomach.
Well, there you go. We have debunked that. What's the third one, Zach? Everyone sleeps on their stomach.
Except for me.
That's right. Bar from the ceiling.
Kathy would feel a sensation of being embraced in a loving manner by an unseen force, which doesn't make sense to me because nothing in this damn house seems loving. So where the hell was this loving unseen force coming from?
Oh, it was like the you know how they say before you're born, you exist. Maybe it was well, I know he would be alive, so that totally invalidates that point. I don't know. Maybe it was Ronald DeFeo Sr. Because he seemed to be a very loving man. And he wasn't beating the shit out of all his children.
Allegedly. Yeah, so those were it. Those were pretty much, that's what, pretty.
So three claims in one. I got one for you that relates back to that Jody pig winged monster. On January 1st, New Year's Day of 1976, they said they went outside their house after hearing strange noises and found in the snow the cloven hoof prints of a demonic pig.
Sure, this wasn't Al Gore.
It wasn't who?
Al Gore. It kind of sounds like Al.
It was Al Gore.
He's old enough.
I was wondering when Al Gore was going to get crowbarred into the show.
This could have been a creation of Man Bear Pig.
Oh God! Well, I got one to debunk that too.
Dear.
On New Year's Day, 1976, they went back at the to look at the weather reports, and it didn't fucking snow on New Year's Day. So how?
This is one big excuse just to make a whole bunch of movies off a whole bunch of like people getting killed.
I know, but I love tearing it apart beat by beat.
The marketing just for money. It's unbelievable. What will people do next?
That was the whole purpose of buying the house.
Yeah, well, it appeared to be the whole purpose of buying the house. Getting in over your head, finding out about some murders, and then figuring out over a bunch of wine with an author how you can make money off of it.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. They also said that there was green slime oozed from the walls and keyhole in the attic door. And it should be noted that the oldest son of the DeFeo family, Ronald,
the killer,
that was his room.
Ooh. I think there's green slime coming down out of the...
What was common green slime back then? They had different toys back then. They had like Play-Doh. They had. Yeah. I'm trying to think what would have caused that back then, because I remember when I was a kid, they had like a couple different toys that could cause like green slime.
That's it. It had Play-Doh coming out. That was it.
I think they probably just had some plumbing issues and it ran down the walls. It's kind of an older house. The green slime definitely was not a big thing probably until the 80s, because I had green slime, but that was just because, once again, well, it's apropos. Ghostbusters. When they used to, I had that green slime all over the place, but you had to close the lid on it or else it'd dry out and just become like old spider webs.
Yeah, that ectoplasm would dry out.
Yeah, it would dry out really quick. But I love me some green slime. I don't know what it could be in the Amityville house if it wasn't just another fanciful creation of George and Kathy.
Well, they did create a snowstorm.
Yeah. Yeah, it only snowed over 112 Ocean Drive. I'm surprised that's not in the book. If they had known someone would look back at the weather reports, that would have been in the book, I guarantee you. So we got that. What else you got, Zachary?
George discovered a small hidden room 4 feet by 5 feet behind shelving in the basement. The walls were painted red, and the room did not appear in the blueprints of the house. The room came to be known as the Red Room.
Sounds like some 50 Shades crap right there.
Oh, good call. Yeah. Are we sure they didn't know about that? Now, there was a couple people that went into the house later, and what they discovered is that this alleged red room was actually just a closet. And it wasn't hidden. It was just easily accessible through the family room that was in the basement.
You just ruined Zach's story.
Hey. What'd you say, Zach?
No shit.
Out
the window.
I'm killing the witch's brew, and I'm killing the cloven-hooved killer.
Fun vacuum.
I've been accused of worse. It should also be said that the family said this was built over an ancient Indian burial ground. That was another thing.
Why wouldn't it be? Why wouldn't it be?
Yeah. The ancient Indian burial ground is this thing that they said was there, and then they changed it a little bit. They said that that's where the Indians took their dying and their mentally ill to abandon them.
Maybe you just lost a shit ton of wars.
Well, the Indians in the local area said that this is a complete falsehood. But then, like any good conspiracy theorist, they're going to say, well, they wouldn't admit it if they did. And then that's your bullshit way out of it. That's the double negative of a conspiracy theorist is you say something that nobody can answer back to. It's like God exists. How do you know? Because he does. Okay, great argument. What else we got?
George said he saw Kathy transform into a woman of 90 years old.
Oh, God.
It does happen when you are with someone for a long time.
Yeah, she was probably just sick of his shit. I mean, is it me?
Nothing.
That's the worst trip ever.
It's like the only time Ryan doesn't want to say something is after that. Come on, man. I know you got something to say.
Just 1 week where I don't say the worst shit. I'm trying to let everyone else have at it.
Well, I got one for you. Listen to this. Just sit back, Ryan, and listen to this one, because this is one of my favorites. George said that one night he came down to the living room, and they had a 4-foot-high China lion by the fireplace because, you know, everyone does.
It was the 70s.
And he said that he walked past this thing, and it jumped up and bit him. It's like that scene in Forrest Gump. Jumped up and bit me. It was a bullet, wasn't it? Jumped up and bit you. Yes, sir. $1 million wound. But anyway, so he said that he got bit by a porcelain lion next to the fireplace. Now, let me just say one thing. No, it's just going to be one thing about the porcelain lion. I promise.
Okay.
Now, to believe that the ghosts can somehow make a porcelain lion come to life, not only are you asking me to believe in the existence of something that you can't prove or, you know, other than through bullshit photography, but you're also asking me to believe that these ghosts can somehow completely alter the laws of physics and make porcelain move in such a way that it comes to life, lurches forward, and can bite a man. That is a little much for me. If you said that it just kind of moved, like there was some sort of force behind it and it moved, but that the lion came to life, get a fucking grip.
No, see, okay, I've been attacked by several porcelain things, so I don't know what you're talking about.
Was it what? Well, I don't know, man. I'm gonna have to leave you with the China lion.
It's very shiny.
Say that again, Zachary.
Mine was a porcelain duck. Porcelain attacked me.
Do we have anything else about this? Any more claims? Was that all the ones you had?
That's all that I had.
What
I claim we made way too much money off this entire operation.
Wait a second, we're missing the priest. There was a priest in here somewhere.
Well, I got more. I got more.
Oh,
I don't think anyone misses the priest.
wow.
There's a cold spot.
From what I've heard.
Perfume and shit in areas of the house where no wind drafts or piping would explain the source.
Now let me just stop you right there.
I asked you for a second. Did you say perfume and shit?
Now let me just stop you right there because I got a story to tell you. One time my grandmother went into the bathroom, God rest her soul, and I walked in there after her, and I swear to God, I nearly fell backwards and down a flight of stairs.
I saw it.
She saw it. So that's what I say about the wafting shit fragrance.
There's certain smells you can only make like after 77.
Okay, I didn't mean to interrupt you, Zach. Was that everything that you were going to say about? So there was shit in the air.
You know, you said somewhere Kanye's like, shit, the perfect fucking perfume. I'm going to be a billionaire again.
Shit by Kanye West.
Shit in the air.
So there was shit in the air and perfume.
Well, that's where they got the idea.
Yeah.
A free bottle with Yeezys.
There was Kathy on the John. So
Ode to John.
Yes. Ode to George's dinner. So what else you got, Zach?
While tending to the fire, George and Kathy saw an image of a demon with half his head blown out. It was burned into the soot in the back of the fireplace.
What is that?
Wait, the demon image was like, it wasn't just seen, it was burned, like it was there permanent?
It was made of soot.
Yeah.
And I've seen an explosion before. That's where the only thing I could.
Where I live.
Hang on a second. You're both talking. I couldn't hear. What would you say, Ryan?
I think I've seen demons in an explosion, like that one 9/11 explosion. It actually looks like a demon is in it. Like they used to do the still pictures on the National Geographic. That's the only one where I'm like, that looks actually like, but that's the only instance of it I can think of.
I was gonna say, yeah, like clouds. You can.
Yeah, you can
see
see faces.
You can make anything seen a cloud, but that one particular one was pretty good. Like if anyone knows what I'm talking about, it's pretty good. So
Zach, what were you saying?
Oh, this whole thing just confuses me. I don't know. I didn't know what the hell soot was or whatever. That's confused me.
You didn't see 101 Dalmatians where you were getting trained by Disney that bad shit's going to happen to you?
You live in Arizona, Zach. That's why you don't know what soot is. They don't need fireplaces in Arizona. Okay. Okay, so but that demon can be easily rectified with some Windex. What else we got?
Well, in the early morning hours of Christmas Day, 1975, George locked up the house after checking on the boathouse and saw Jody standing behind Missy at her bedroom window. When he ran up to her room and found her fast asleep, he saw her small rocking chair slowly rocking back and forth.
Oh, yeah.
That's the only part of the Ryan Reynolds movie I remember.
Oh yeah, okay, so the giant demon was standing next to the kid, and then it just took a load off in JFK's rocking chair. Okay, what else?
Yeah. Well,
that's one of those things. I don't know what to say about that. I think George was smoking.
And George would also wake up to the sound of the front door slamming. He would race downstairs to find the dog sleeping soundly at the front door. No one else heard the sound, although it was loud enough to wake the house. I think the dog
gives no fucks. The dog's still sleeping.
The dog is probably that. What's that show with the dog with Elijah Wood?
It goes back to what you're talking about, the inconsistencies, though. Like, yeah, there was this loud noise, but the dog's sitting sleeping on the front door.
The dog is the worst watchdog ever. What's the name of that song? What was the name of that show?
I know what you're talking about, but I can't.
Wilfred? Wilfred. There you go. The dog was Wilfred. It wasn't Harry.
Exactly what it was. And the last one is the most famous of them all. Father Mensuko lived, priesthood.
Oh yeah, he was the guy who lived over at the rectory over town.
And while the Lutz were unpacking on December 1975, he blessed the house. And on the second floor room, he heard a man's voice say, "Get out."
Oh, that's really famous. I remember the Rod Steiger scene where he's attacked by the flies, and then it says, "Get out."
After all that, he developed a really high fever and blisters that resembled the stigmata.
Well, now I can tell you that Father Mancuso was actually a guy named Father Picarero. I'm going to go with Picarero. In the late 70s, he did an affidavit, and he said that he'd only ever spoken to the Lutz family over the telephone. But that doesn't mean anything necessarily, because in a 1980 episode of a show called In Search Of, which was hosted by the great Leonard Nimoy, he actually said that he did go to the house and heard a male voice say, "Get out," but he couldn't say for sure that it was a ghost. So it might have just been George in the other room. So you got a priest in my house? Get the fuck out of here. I don't know what denomination George was. Maybe he wasn't Catholic. Maybe he was one of those blasted Protestants. Now, speaking of that, they did do a blessing of the house. The Lutzes did a private blessing on January the 8th, and they heard a series of voices say, "Get out! Will you get out, please?" Because apparently that's all that these ghosts have been wanting them to do the whole 28 days they were there. And I say 28 days because that's how long the Lutzes were there. January 14th, 1976, George and Kathy and the kids abruptly left the house, leaving all of their possessions behind. And then a mover.
What the fuck?
Yeah, they just left. They sent a mover back to get their things and collect them. And they never returned. Now, the mover experienced nothing unusual or supernatural, he said, and neither has any resident who has owned 112 Ocean Avenue since. Nobody else has claimed to have any supernatural experience whatever in this home.
I think that guy killed his family.
Oh, Ronald DeFeo definitely killed his family. I'm going to tell you something, though. There's a really funny story about this guy named James Randi. He's a guy I respect very much. He's a debunker of supernatural claims and things. And he, in the 80s, was often asked to come on these documentary-type programs and be like the faithful opposition to the psychics and stuff when they would go in and do readings and things at the houses. And he said he did this one with this psychic, and they went to Ocean Avenue, and they said that they climbed out of the TV van. And as they got the camera set up, that the psychic said, "Oh my God, I can hear it. I can hear the shotgun blasts. I can hear screaming. There's fire everywhere." And he said that she just fell to the floor, and that the door flew open on the house, and a guy came out and said, "What are you doing on my lawn?" And the producer said, "We're doing a documentary about the Amityville house." And the homeowner said, "Oh, that's the one down the street." And so then they went down the street, and he said once they set up at the actual 112 Ocean Avenue, she said, "Oh my God, I can feel it. I hear the shotgun blasts." She fell down the floor. She did the whole routine again. I always love that story. And I'll tell you another story that is worth noting here that is also psychically based. Now, if any of you have seen this film series called The Conjuring, you know who Ed and Lorraine Warren were. And if you've seen Conjuring Part 2, they actually show what I'm about to tell you in the opening scenes of Conjuring Part 2. They went to the house, and they did an investigation at 112 Ocean Avenue, which included a lot of photography, some of which was taken by a guy named Gene Campbell, who was a part of their crew. Now, I'm going to show you a photograph that was taken by Ed and Lorraine Warren while they were investigating the house. This is a very famous photograph that many of you probably have seen. That is the house. That is the photograph taken allegedly by Ed and Lorraine Warren in 112 Ocean Avenue. And as you can see there, it is a photograph that appears to show a little boy with glowing eyes looking around the corner of one of the bedroom doors there on the stair landing at the Amityville house. Should also be noted that Ed and Lorraine brought along their nephew who wore glasses to this investigation, a little guy named John Zaffis. Everybody got a good look at the demon boy?
Oh, yeah.
Can we bring up the man in a baby picture now?
It's a what picture?
The 3 men and a baby.
Oh, that's a good one. God, that's a good one. That creeped me out when I was a kid. I
didn't even take the demon pictures last night. I had them in limbo just waiting.
Well, you're going to be bringing us some ghost pictures pretty soon, I hope, Mr. Raynick.
I'm trying.
You need to get to work on that.
I know.
But anyway, let me just give a little capper so everybody knows. Kathy died of emphysema in 2004. And then George died 2 years later of heart disease. They had divorced in the 80s. And I'm sure they split all their Amityville money. One of their stepchildren, Christopher, came out at one point and said that a lot of this was total exaggeration. Even George Lutz himself said that it's mostly true, which means it's somewhat bullshit. And if you've had, in my life experience, what I've discovered is if anything is somewhat bullshit, that means it's mostly bullshit. But that's what George said. It's mostly true. The son said it's not really all that much true, and so George sued his stepson for laying claim to his Amityville, story, and saying that it wasn't true, and taking away his money that he would make otherwise. They made a remake of the movie starring Ryan Reynolds, his abs, and some woman who played Kathy. I don't even remember who played Kathy. Anybody know?
I don't remember.
Well, Ryan Reynolds probably doesn't remember either.
He's too busy looking at his abs.
That's right. He's like, I've got to chase these children across the roof of the house. Now, I will defend George Lutz in so much as this. In that remake, which is the usual, like, overblown, over the top, instead of them just escaping the house, there's a scene where George chases his children across the roof with an axe in the rain, so that Ryan Reynolds can wear a tight t-shirt. You can see his abs. And then at the end of the movie, he comes back to his senses and he gets in a boat and he rides away with his wife and her kids. And I'm thinking, like, what kind of a mother are you? But anyway, the guy just chased your kids across the roof of the house with a fucking axe.
It's okay. It was just a pig demon.
But anyway, I just want to defend George Lutz in so much as to say I don't think he chased his children across the roof of a house in the rain with an axe. Probably because if you've ever seen pictures of George Lutz, he clearly did not have the abs of Ryan Reynolds. He probably wouldn't be caught dead in a wet t-shirt. But anyway, I kind of thought it would.
He would if he drowned.
And oh man, I wish I could have drowned him. No, I'm just kidding. Anyway, I thought it might. I'm not. I thought it might be fun to talk about some ghost experiences that we've had as a kind of a wrap up to this show about the infamous ghostly hauntings at Amityville. And also, I'm so sorry to the people of Amityville. I know that this has destroyed your community and that you hate people talking about this and coming to that house. In fact, they changed the address of the house. It's no longer 112 Ocean Avenue, so you got to try to find it. But it's still there. And also the famous windows that are, up, the windows, you could recognize it from space. They've changed those windows. So the house doesn't really look the same. And I think recently it was up for sale.
Yeah, I
You
think
should have
so.
just made it into a tourist attraction.
Yeah, they don't like the ghost haunted murder DeFeo thing. I think they would rather forget the DeFeo thing and that the alleged haunting never happened.
Did you say what happened to Ronald? I mean, is he still kicking?
He's still kicking. He's in prison. They've denied his parole many times. 25 years went by. He's had some parole hearings.
Why didn't he just latch on and say it was the pig demon that made me do it?
I don't know. If you see some of the movies, they make it out like he heard the voices of, like, Amityville Part 2, the prequel, make out like he heard the voices of the demons in the house. That's all George and Kathy Lutz. Despite some claims, Ronald DeFeo Jr. never said that ghosts told him to kill his parents. He said that he overheard his parents plotting to kill him, but all the ghost possession stuff came after the fact when the Lutzes made up their story and wrote their book with Jay Anson. So, okay, Zach, I want to hear a ghost story. Tell me about a ghostly experience you've had.
Well, there is one in particular. When I was a kid, I had to stay with a buddy of mine for like a week, and the first couple nights I was staying there. His dad was, just mentioning to me that his grandfather, or his dad was telling him his father died in the house, some years ago. And there was a photo of him in the living room wearing a black suit and everything. And I guess he smoked cigars and everything. Well, that's for later. Anyway, the first night, or one of the first few nights, I was sleeping on the couch, and in the recliner was going back and forth. And I swear to this day, I saw what woke me up is the smell of cigar smoke, because no one smoked in the house. And I looked over and saw the K-Rock back and forth, and I was like rubbing my eyes. And to this day, I swear I saw a man wearing a black suit sitting in the chair staring at me, and it scared the crap out of me. And then the very next night, we were in a separate bedroom in the same house on bunk beds, and I was on the top bunk, my friend was on the bottom. We were just talking, and his phone rang, so he ran up and got it. to answer the phone. And as I was staring up at the ceiling, I heard the door shut. I heard somebody get into the bottom bunk and then say, continue. And it was in a raspy old man voice. And again, smelt cigars in the room.
Well, that's creepy as hell. Wow.
Explain any of that. I don't know what that was. And no one smoked in that house. They didn't allow it. So I don't know what that smell was. But they did say that he was a real big cigar smoker. And that was like over 10 years prior. So, you know, the house was definitely fumed out. There was no smell of cigars, you know, except for during certain times.
Yeah. Well, that's a good one. Ryan, what's your ghostly experience? This I can't wait to hear.
I don't have any good ones. I just saw some shiny shit in the air one day. I don't know what it was.
You saw some shiny shit in the air.
These little, like, I remember it. Like, I remember at the time being like, there's not really a lot of explanation for it. They were like small and in semi bunches, like 3 and 4 at a time, and I had no idea what they were. They're in the middle of Indiana on a farm, and like I think I told you earlier, like there was not. It's not like you can be like, oh, there's something inside, like, you know, flying these things. They were just really like round and not very big around, but plentiful.
So they were like orbs in the air, like little.
Like an orb is like the only thing I can describe it as at all. And at the time, even while it's happening, I'm like, well, you know, do I have water in my eyes? Is there something like, you know, it's a sunny day? Is there something just, you know, when you get something in your eye, like, you know, you create like side, but then like, I repeatedly like kept like making sure like it wasn't like just me like seeing shit. Like it was something, but I have no idea what it was. And
it was in the daytime?
Yeah. Middle of the day.
That's interesting. That's a unique one. Beck?
But yeah, I don't like talking, you know, it's not like I even talking about it now, like if someone was like, oh, you know, what do you think? I have no idea. Yeah. And to me, like when you get to that, like when you're at the inconclusive level, I'm pretty much at the zero supernatural experiences thing. It's just that particular one didn't make a lot of sense because, you know, what else would cause something like that? I've tried to figure out for, you know, like after it happened, I tried to think like, well, maybe this could have like, I don't know. There's not a lot of good explanation for it.
Well, that's a good one. Rebecca, what was yours?
I mean, I don't know if it was real, but the college we went to was very haunted.
Yeah, we being me and her.
And the library stacks were supposedly haunted. And I was on the top floor, and it just started having weird feelings. And then, I mean, I could see the doorway and everything, but the light started going on and off a couple of times. But then again, there could have been a switch somewhere else. I don't know. I may have just thought, you know, I've heard this is haunted, and so I'm thinking, you don't know. I mean, when you're told something's haunted.
Say what, Ryan?
There's a place called Moody Road in Indiana, like, and there was this guy supposedly like hung himself, and people like they actually had a thing. I think it like 10 years ago on. I don't remember what channel, whether I don't think it was Discovery. I think it might have been the Travel Channel, where they actually did a story about it because people would come from like Iowa all the way to Indiana to come to this road. And like if you live out there and you see it enough, like I really just think it's like the way car lights come at this angle, like because there's a highway like across that goes down from it, that like it's just a weird reflection it creates off lights that like kind of looks at it normal, and people for years have like, it's like, oh, he's carrying his lantern, like that was like the road's claim to fame. So every now and again you go down there, there'd be like, you know, 15, 20 college students just being like, well, what is it, you know, like that's the only thing.
There were a lot of those like
a story that was something behind it.
But there's a lot of those stories. I remember my great grandmother actually telling me a story about a kid that fell down a well, and that she said that this was before her time even. And she was very old when I was very young. So we're talking back in the early 1900s probably.
So the victim missed the lassie that could have saved him.
Yeah. But the father would take a lantern out to this hole where the well where the child fell down. And even after the father died, my grandmother said if you went out there at night sometimes, you would see this firelight of a lantern moving through the darkness, not being connected to anybody, but just the light itself of the lantern. And that it would go up, and then it would fly down into the well, and then it would disappear. The idea being that this was the man still looking for his child that went down the well years before. We could go over ghost stories forever, but we're like out of time today. We talked about the Amityville Horror. We jumped into a bunch of stuff about ghostly experiences that we had. You know, look, we'll go around really, really briefly and say what each of us thinks of the Amityville Horror. I think it's pretty clear what I think of it. It's a cash grab by some people who had financial troubles. Rebecca, what do you think?
I agree. I think they saw an opportunity to come up with something.
Yeah. Zach?
Well, I'm pretty sure I know what Ryan's going to say. So I'm going to be the one to say, I believe George. Guy's got a bad rap. I agree with him. I think that there was some weird stuff going on there.
All right.
I believe the girl.
Okay, we got one supporter for Georgie and Kat. What do you think, Ryan? Real quick.
I'm on your guys' side. The whole thing is full of shit.
So we got 3 against and 1 for. That's all right. At least we got one supporter for the Amityville story, even though it may just be so somebody supports it. But thank you guys so much for joining me this time. Ryan, thanks, buddy.
No problem. Hey, tonight, Erickson Lubin fights on Showtime. If you're not doing nothing, check it out. It's the co-main event. That's what I'll be doing.
There you go. Zach, thank you, man.
Thanks for having me.
And Rebecca, thank you.
Thank you for having me.
And guys, thank you for watching. Until next week, take care of yourselves.